All right, the pre-calc challenge quiz, practice 8. So I think about 4 of you in there know how to factor by grouping. Anyways, first two terms, they both contain a 4 and an x. Pull a 4x from that, you'll have x squared. You pull it from that, you'll have to take away 25. The last two terms both contain a 3. And if you pull a 3, you'll have x squared minus 25. The common factor to these two pieces is x squared minus 25. And the stuff left over is 4x plus 3. This is an Algebra 1 standard, factoring x squared minus 25. That's x minus 5 times x plus 5. Complete factorization. All right, evaluate 1/8 to the negative 4/3. That's a free response. Most of y'all are getting that. It needs to be pulled. I'll probably just leave it this one last time. The negative is flipping the number. So it becomes 8 to the positive 4/3, which is the cubic root of 8, all to the 4th. The cubic root of 8 is 2. If you take 2 and you raise it to the 4th power, you should get a 16. Moving forward, in words, what is log base 6 of 216 asking? It's asking, since this is your base, and this is legit your answer, what power of 6 is equal to 216? The answer to that is 3, because 6 times 6 times 6, 216. Find the solutions of the absolute value of 4x minus 5 is less than or equal to 12. It's a free response. So you're going to write two equations. The first one is as is. The second one, we change the sign on the stuff on the side. And then we just do math. If we add 5, we're at 17. Divide by 4, x is less than or equal to 17 quarters. Subtract 5, we'll have a 7. Divide out the negativity, which means we flip the inequality sign. X is greater than negative 7 quarters. So those are valid answers. If it was an interval, it would look like this: negative 7 quarters, comma, 17 quarters, all with brackets on both sides. Determine where this graph is negative. So a rough graph of this, it's going to open up. It's got a positive 5. So think about that. And we just need to figure out these numbers right here. So we're probably going to factor. Let's see, let's try a 5x and x. To get to a 6, probably a 2 and a 3. That'll do it. Minus, plus, and minus. Because the outside makes 15, the insides take away 2. That's going to be your 13. Zero product property. X is 2/5 and x is negative 3. So this would be negative 3, and this would be your 2/5. Negativity, that interval right there, from negative 3 to 2/5. Number 6, identify the transformations. So I left the choices on this one just because it might make more sense to teach y'all how to get the correct answer based off the choices. So we have gone from 4 to negative 1. So that tells me I have actually done x plus 5 because this is a left 5 idea. It's not going to be choice D. Now, let's see what happens if we multiply this thing by a negative 2. All right, so if you take a negative 2, and all these choices have a negative 2, and you multiply it by a negative 2, you get 4. So that would be like up here somewhere. You'd be at negative 1, 4. Well, you're going to have to drop several units, aren't you? I multiplied the wrong thing, I'm sorry. If I take this guy and I multiply it by a negative 2, I get 6. So if that's all I had done, I would be sitting at negative 1, 6. Well, I have to fall 8 units. Choice C. That'll be multiple choice on your challenge exams. Even though choice D says, why am I so retarded? A couple of y'all still missed this question on the last quiz. You're not supposed to miss this question. Quadratic has a vertex of 4, negative 3. Determine the vertex of the quadratic after the transformations. G of x equals f of x minus 3 plus 4 have been applied. This is a right 3 and then an up 4. I've had you guys 2 years in a row. That's gotta be the 1000th time we have tried to do something that simple. I don't know what sins I committed in the past to get this, but whatever they are, they are. Right 3, we're gonna add 3. Up 4, we're gonna add 4. If we add 3 to 4, we get a 7. We add 4 to -3, we get a 1. All right, determine the domain of this thing. You know that you cannot divide by 0. So you say x squared plus 5x minus 24 is not 0, and then you use your favorite F word, you factor. 24 is going to be 8 and 3, or 6 and 4, or 2 and 12, but 8 and 3 is the pair because you want a positive 5. 8 minus 3 is what it is. Use the not zero product property. X cannot be 8 and x cannot be 3. Negative 8 and positive 3. 9, find the domain of the logarithm. So for a logarithm, the argument is bigger than 0. So 3x plus 15 is bigger than 0. 3x is greater than -15. X is greater than -5, which is not an option here. So pick that one. It's choice C if you change it. All right, find the difference quotient. I'm tired of doing this in the video for y'all, but whatever. Do that piece right there. Plug in the x plus h. It is squared. Write it twice. Some of you like Taylor Spry have yet to do this for the first time. So me doing this is for Taylor Spry. Anyways, x plus h times x plus h is x squared plus an xh plus an xh plus an h squared, which is x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. And there's a 5 out front. So let me do that off to the side. It's time to 5 it. 5x squared plus 10xh plus 5h squared. Invoke your distributive property. Minus 2x minus 2h plus a 1. Take away the original function. Notice I'm wrapping. If you're going to take something away if it's negative, it's good practice to wrap all over h. Now, this has been said a few thousand times. If it exists in here, it cancels out on the outside too. 5x squared, -2x, -2x, 1, 1. We are currently looking at a 10xh, a 5h squared, and a minus 2h all over h. 1, 2, 3, 4 distinct pieces. They all contain an h. So 10x minus 2 plus 5 h's. The bonus is really easy, but nobody even bothers doing it. Even the kids who get this part, it says plug in a 10. 10 times 10 minus 2 is 98. Don't worry about h. Identify all the asymptotes. So your vertical asymptotes, they happen in the denominator. That's what we focus on. X squared minus 49 is nothing. X squared is 49. X is plus or minus 7. You can find any other asymptote by using long division. So x squared minus 49 on the outside, 6x cubed minus 3x plus 2 on the inside. I'm going to multiply by, I guess I didn't change this, a 6x to create a 6x cubed. And that's going to get on up there. 294, so take away 294x. And the truth is it doesn't matter, but we wrap before we subtract. And I have 291 x's plus 2, and x squared cannot become 291x. So there's your slant asymptote, y equals x. 12 is even, odd, or neither. I really thought by now that everyone in your class would be getting these. Like, they are such an easy problem. I don't understand. Literally, this says plug in a negative x. twice a negative x to the fifth, plus 4 times a negative x to the third, minus a 2. So if you take a negative and you multiply it by itself an odd number of times, I swear to God that it will always be negative. So this becomes negative 2x to the fifth minus 4x cubed minus 2. And look, it's different. The deal says g of negative x is equal to g of x. They are not the same. I am not even. Now let's do negative g of x. That's where you take the entire function and you wrap it in a little negative symbol and you use the distributive property. Negative 2x to the fifth minus 4x cubed plus 2. This does not look like that. See how the rule says these two things are equal? It's not odd. It's neither. That one's neither. 13, again, you guys are on your second year with doing this, because we did a lot of it last year. Restrict the domain so the function is 1 to 1. Find the inverse of it. So I don't know how many times I've done this with you all, but you think about the graph. It's a shift left 3. We only keep the positivity. X has to be greater than negative 3. Which doesn't do you much good. Actually, it does. Can't be that one. Can't be that one. See, that made it 50-50. Just no domain made it 50-50. The rest of it's writing an inverse. We swap x and y. We isolate. We isolate some more. So x plus 4 over 6 is equal to y plus 3 quantity squared. So, oh look, it's b, because this one doesn't agree. You didn't have to finish the problem, you morons. 14, let f of x be 1 over 2x minus 5 and g of x be 3 over x minus 6. Find the domain of f of g of x. I'm going to do part 2 first because it makes it easier. That's going to go in for that x. 3 over x minus 6, and then minus the 5. Clean that up. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 over x minus 12 minus 5. Clean it up a little bit more. 1 over 6 over x minus 17. They're the fractions. That's a nested fraction. You multiply everything by the least common denominator, which is x. You get x over 6 minus 17x. So, I know that 6 minus 17x cannot be 0. So I'm just going to shift that over. 6 cannot be 17x, therefore x cannot be 6/17. But there's one more right there. It's legit right there. At the moment of inception, x could not be 0. So there's your domain. Everything else. An angle of 135 degrees lies on a circle of radius 4. What are the x and y coordinates where the angle intersects the circle? Negative 135 degrees. So you guys were taught to add 360. That's how I taught you all this year. Is equivalent to a 225 degree angle of rotation. 225 degree angle of rotation is going to stop right there on your unit circle. And is going to have the ordered pair negative root 2 over 2, negative root 2 over 2. So think about your unit circle quizzes that you guys have taken. Think about stuff that's in the lower right hand corner. Somewhere in there is that x, I'm doing that wrong. Cosine of an angle is x over the radius. That's what's there. And there's other ways of thinking about these, but using that. R both sides, I get that x's are cosines of theta. Now I also have on there that the sine of theta is y over r. If I r both sides of y is r sines of theta. So the cosine and sine of this angle is the same, because remember this is cosine and this is sine. They're both negative root 2 over 2. So x is going to be 4 times negative root 2 over 2. Y is also 4 times negative root 2 over 2. 4 over 2 is 2, so we have negative 2 root 2 for x and negative 2 root 2 for y. Moving forward to 16. To what does 1 plus the tangent of x divided by 1 plus the cotangent of x simplify into? what should we do? I don't think we should use the conjugate. I think we should write this as 1 plus sine over cosine. And that should be written as 1 plus cosine over sine. Now let's unify the fractions together. This is going to become cosine plus sine over cosine. This is going to become sine plus cosine over sine. Now you divide one fraction by another by multiplying by its reciprocal. So we have cosine plus sine over cosine times sine over sine plus cosine. Now cosine plus sine is the same as sine plus cosine, straight up cancellation. We have sine over cosine, which is by definition tangent. 17, find the center radius circle of x squared plus 4x plus y squared plus 8y is negative 17. If this represents the circle, there's some typos in there. Anyways, you're going to complete the square. Your goal is to make this piece right here a perfect square. I was taught to think of the number that you have to add to make it true. It's going to be 4. Because you take half of b, which is 4 over 2, and you get 2, and then you square that piece. And you add it to both sides. So I added it here, and I have to add it to the right-hand side as well. If I add it to the right, I have to add it to the left. All right, here we have an 8. I cut that in half and I get a 4. I square it and I get a 16. And if I add it to the left, I add it to the right for equality purposes. The right-hand side gets to be 3. X squared plus 4x plus 4 is x plus a 2 that is squared. Y squared plus 8y plus 16 is y plus a 4 that is squared, and that equals 3. Your center is at negative 2, negative 4, and the radius is the square root of 3. All right, nearly done. Find both the area of the shaded sector and the length of the arc marked x. So both the formulas here require theta to be a radian. So you are going to have to take your 72 degrees and multiply it by pi over 180 degrees. And you're going to have to reduce the fractions. I heard it for you, but both those numbers are divisible by 36. 72 divided by 36 is 2. 180 divided by 36 is 5. You might get there longer, but you'll get there eventually. I even gave you the area formula. It's 1/2 the radius, which is 12 squared, times the radian, 2 pi over 5. 12 squared is 144. Half of that's 72. 72 times 2 is 144. You get 144 pi units over 5. Yeah, seems legit. Find the length of the arc x using r theta. So the radius is 12. The angle is twice pi over 5. You get 24 pi over 5. Easy peasy. 2 to go. What is the domain of g of f of x? And this is g of f of x. Okay? So this is going there. Notice how it's working? G of f. So f is entering g. You're going to have the square root of a 5, and x was encountered. It's 3x minus 1, and that says minus 4. Use your distributive property, 15x minus 5. Let's try that again. And then minus 4. And you get root of 15x minus 9. Now, for domain, for the square root of anything is greater than or equal to 0. So 15x minus 9 is greater than or equal to 0. 15x is greater than or equal to 9. X is greater than or equal to 9/15. 1 to go. Find the area of the parallelogram below. If a to b is 12 and a to d is 22. Now your area formula for a parallelogram is really simple. It's base height. I learned that in, what, 3rd grade, as soon as they were teaching us how to multiply. So surely y'all learned that in 3rd grade too. Now, a to b is 12. opposite sides of a parallelogram with congruence, and so is D to C. D to C happens to be a 30, 60, 90 pattern. You got a 30-degree angle here. That's the short side called X. The hypotenuse is twice X, and the long side is X root 3. So if this is 12, this short side is 6, and the long side is 6 root 3. Why was that important? Because that's my frickin' height. So the area of this parallelogram is something times 6 root 3. It says A to D is 22. That's your base. So 22 times 6 root 3. 22 times 6 is 132. So 132 roots of 3. And that is your challenge practice.